Welcome to Bloodbath and Beyond. Today we review Critters Attack. It's a new adventure in babysitting.
Directed by Bobby Miller, starring Tashiana Washington, Dee Wallace, Jaeden Noel, Jack Fulton, and Ava Preston. This movie's about Drea, a girl who just wants to get into the college of her dreams, but can't. So she takes on a gig babysitting for one of her history professors in an attempt to kind of sweeten them up and let her into college. Unfortunately, this little babysitter gig turns into quite the adventure when some aliens from space invade Earth and they go for a picnic and stumble across the queen of the critters, now named Bianca. Now Drea, her brother, and the kid she's babysitting have to save Earth. So what do we like?
The critters themselves are the highlight of this movie. The puppeteering, the animatronics, just everything about these critters is downright adorable. And I feel weird saying that because clearly they aren't like the cutest of creatures.
Right, there's slime coming from like 3 rows of teeth. They look disgusting, like little balls of fur. Like, if one was sitting in your corner, you wouldn't be like, how cute is that?
What about the ball sack one?
He's like the balding guy that we've seen in other Critters entries, actually. I think he got his hair blown off in number 2. I don't know how he's still around or if this is just a throwback to him. Yeah, he's certainly not cute. Although Bianca's kind of cute. She's got these little adorable lashes and she's just easier on the eyes as far as critters are concerned, I guess.
They did a great job, and I like that they went with puppets.
You can tell that they put a lot of effort into actually building these critters out to look like the original critters in the series. So kudos to the people who actually made the puppets and to the puppeteers themselves for the way that they controlled them, because there were people underground at points with their hands sticking up trying to mow a guy in a forest, you know? So they put themselves through hell to make these critters come to life.
I'm giving a big shout out to Steve Blum, the voice behind the critters. I just love him as a voice actor. Spike from Cowboy Bebop, and he's here just making some growls and gurgles.
I like that these critters were actually vicious as well. The critters actually kill a lot of people. There's lots of practical blood spraying.
Like the way they killed off a lot of the critters, it was just like explosions and green goop everywhere, or like clean slices, whether it's like a vertical cut or a side cut. Like they had so many of these like puppets.
I like that this was more of like an adventure movie. It was a very kid-friendly plot, not a lot to digest, and there's a lot of kids as the prominent people in the movie. I think that the kids did a pretty solid job. I think Ava Preston absolutely killed it as Trissy. And Jaeden Noel, who played Phillip, they were solid child actors. Of course, there's gonna be some lines in this that seem unbelievable, but for the most part, things seem to work well for them.
I strangely had a soft spot for Tristan DeBeer, who played Gregory. I think it's just the stupid, cocky moment he had near the end of the film.
I can run incredibly fast.
Okay, but you don't understand. Sean was actually just...
Which brings back some nostalgia. As we all know, the critters like to form up and become a ball. And well, this was that reveal, and it was awesome. Now, what didn't we like?
This is pretty odd because Dee Wallace is in this film, and she doesn't play the same character as she did in the first Critters. I get that they're probably trying to pull someone back as like a callback from like the original Critters.
Yeah, of course.
But why did they not get Terrence Mann, who's in every single Critters movie as like the alien bounty hunter Ugg?
I thought you were going a different direction with that dislike. I'll segue off that. The fact that Dee Wallace was basically useless. She shows up at the beginning and then she shows up at the very end. She didn't add anything to the movie other than like an ex machina, like, here's the guns you need to destroy the critters. The kids, well, not always competent, definitely had Trissy, who was smart, and Phillip, who would be her lackey. Those two could have created something and figured it out. And they were doing a damn good job. And then Dee Wallace comes in after the whole big climax and has to finish the film off, but like, it didn't need to happen. We built up all these young characters to grow and overcome things, and they were on their way to do that, but then it's like, nah, I got this. Bam, bam, bam. It's like, well, what the fuck is this? And that's not to say I don't like Dee Wallace. I think she did a good job for what she was doing, but it just seemed out of place.
To me, it didn't feel like a Critters movie. Like the director and everyone kept saying how they wanted to like recreate what they experienced from Critters 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, but it didn't feel like that. They did a great job with the nostalgia value, but they failed to capture the feeling that is Critters.
Yeah, and so when you think about Critters, you don't think about serious undertone story at all. It's very much more upbeat than this movie was. Sure, there are fun moments in this film, but the series is way more campy than this film is.
And the comedy that they did do was very catered to little kids. It wasn't like to adults.
You're really hitting those notes.
Oh, I can't believe you really love it.
Yeah.
You know, I wrote all those pieces myself.
I also really didn't like Drea. She's our main protagonist, and it's not that her acting was bad, it was that her character was shitty. She's very aggressive towards her father figure, which is Uncle Lou. He's trying to do everything that he can for her, and she just like shuts him up and pretends like he's in the wrong all the time.
Okay, sometimes you get so...
Please, Uncle Louis, I'm not in the mood to argue with you right now. I really gotta get to work.
So if you're not 100% behind the main protagonist in a film, then you're gonna have some problems.
It was really strange plot points because at first they go to Uncle Lou and they're like, aliens are attacking, but they don't show him Bianca. They get into a fight and leave. So then they decide to go to Chef and instantly she's like, look at this alien. Like, why didn't you do that at the police station with Uncle Lou?
Because they wanted to make a point that he's a drunk. There's so many movies where they like, oh, this guy's drinking, so he must be an asshole. He was drinking, but he was never an asshole. But they made it a point for just like the drinking to be a crutch for Drea's character to blame him for something.
I got a lot of things on my mind, I got a lot of things to do. Don't have time.
I see you do.
Like, well, maybe if you stop drinking and listen to me, everything would be fine. It's like, no, I can put down my fucking Crown Royal, I'll listen to you, and I'll tell you goddamn well, aliens don't exist.
Aliens are real.
And with all the talk of animal cruelty, especially with Olinity's cat situation, you can't just be taking fucking little Bianca and putting her in a bag the whole movie. You can see her like struggling, and her little face is like, can anyone untie my E.T. looking ass out of this thing, please? They didn't treat her with the respect she deserved for a queen. Now it's time for our final thoughts and ratings. As someone who grew up with Critters and loved it at the time, this was a worthy sequel that almost felt like it belonged in the franchise. They really did a great job with all of the critters and the puppeteering. However, the story surrounding it definitely felt more like a TV movie, and that's mostly in part because we have a young cast. The young cast did an excellent job, and I know they're gonna do great things in the future, but it's if this whole idea was split to try and focus on both the nostalgia and a new kid audience. And I don't think it really hit the mark there. There's some great practical effects with the kills and everything, but there's just something about an unlikable protagonist and just like not really enjoying the whole story that is going to let a lot of people down. The one-off critter moments killing random folk is the only thing that really like kept me really involved, and I'm sure that that's going to be the overall consensus for this film. So I'm gonna give this 2.5 outdoor Dougie balls out of 5.
I absolutely love the Critters franchise. It's the 5th installment. I like what they were trying to do to like cater to like the older audience like us. It just felt as though they were doing the wrong callbacks. But at the same time, I loved everything they did with the critters themselves. Our actors were good. This just suffers from poor dialogue and poor story arc and character development. It's hard to be invested in care when someone lives or dies when you just don't care about the characters. For this to be the film that is supposed to revitalize the Critter series, I don't think it did the best job it possibly could. And with that being said, I'm gonna give this film 1.5 bagpipe playing critters out of 5.
As always, thank you for watching. Like this video and comment below with your thoughts on the film if you've seen it. If you haven't and you do want to check it out, it is on Blu-ray. Links in the description. If this is your first time here, make sure you subscribe to the channel, stay updated with everything, Bloodbath and beyond, and maybe one day you'll see the first 4 Critters film reviews. We started at the 5th.